Keanu Reeves was offered more money than most people earn in a lifetime to return for Speed 2. He said no. Then he walked into a small theater in one of the coldest cities in Canada, where he would earn about $1,000 a week playing Hamlet. To Hollywood, it looked irrational. Speed had transformed Keanu into one of the most valuable stars in the world. The studio wanted the same hero, the same danger, and another enormous success. His agent saw another blockbuster, more power, and the kind of money that could make saying yes feel automatic. But Keanu had already given someone his word, and for him, that changed everything. Years later, he would describe what followed as movie jail. After refusing the sequel, he did not work with Fox again for more than a decade. Yet he never attacked the filmmakers or pretended he was too good for the movie. He simply said the story did not feel right to him. But that was only part of the truth. The deeper reason began before Speed reached theaters, at a lunch in Venice Beach. Across the table sat Stephen Schipper, artistic director of the Manitoba Theatre Center in Winnipeg. Schipper was not offering Keanu a giant trailer or a Hollywood salary. He was offering him Hamlet. It was not an easy invitation. Hamlet carries more than 1,500 lines and generations of expectation. Keanu was known for Bill and Ted, Point Break, and My Own Private Idaho, but many critics still doubted his range. On stage, there would be no second take, no editor, and nowhere to hide. Night after night, he would have to prove he belonged there, and the theater was not in London or New York. It was in Winnipeg. In winter, Schipper understood that Keanu's career might suddenly change. Keanu asked what would happen if a large movie came along after he accepted the play. How much notice would the theater need? Schipper answered honestly, "Do not say yes unless you mean it." A small theater could not announce Keanu Reeves as Hamlet, sell tickets, hire actors, build sets, and then replace him when Hollywood offered something bigger. Keanu listened. He could have demanded an escape clause. He could have promised to try while making the theater carry the risk. Instead, about a month later, he committed. Let's do it. At that moment, Speed had not yet made him a global action star. Some members of the theater's board reportedly wondered, Keanu who? He agreed to come for ordinary theater pay, work beside an ensemble, and accept the same discipline expected of everyone else. Then Speed opened. Audiences loved the young police officer trying to keep a city bus above 50 miles an hour. They loved Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock together. Suddenly, studios were no longer asking whether Keanu could lead a blockbuster. They were asking how quickly they could get him into the next one. That was when the real test arrived. A promise is easy to keep when nothing better appears. Keanu's promise became valuable only when breaking it could make him richer, safer, and more famous. Hollywood began calling. His representatives saw opportunities that might never come again. One was Speed 2, built to repeat the success that had changed his life. The money surrounding those offers was enormous beside the modest weekly pay waiting in Winnipeg. The arguments for leaving were reasonable. Movie stars had brief windows. Public attention moved quickly. A sequel to a proven hit was the safest path available, and surely the theater would understand, wouldn't it? Keanu saw the choice differently. The theater did not have the power of a studio. That was precisely why his promise mattered. Actors had arranged their lives around the production. Craftspeople were preparing the stage. The company had placed his name before its audience. Ordinary people had spent their money believing he would be there. The smaller commitment was easier to abandon, so Keanu decided it deserved more protection, not less. In December 1994, when Hollywood expected him to move closer to its center, Keanu Reeves traveled north into a Winnipeg winter. He did not arrive as the man who had conquered the box office. He arrived as an actor frightened of the role ahead of him. And before the curtain rose, the people inside that theater were about to discover something Hollywood had not yet understood. When Keanu Reeves gave his word, fame did not get to rewrite it. Winnipeg did not greet Keanu Reeves like Hollywood royalty. It greeted him with snow, rehearsal schedules, and one of the most difficult roles in the English language. Inside the Manitoba Theatre Centre, speed meant very little. A box office success could sell tickets, but it could not carry a 3-hour play. It could not remember the lines, listen to the other actors, or rescue a weak moment after the curtain rose. Only the work could do that. Keanu entered a world where everyone began again each morning. Hamlet was not a role that allowed an actor to survive on charm. The prince could be grieving in one moment, furious in the next, tender with Ophelia, cruel to his mother, suspicious of his friends, and terrified by his own thoughts. And every change had to feel true. There was another pressure waiting for him. People were not coming only to see Hamlet. Many were coming to see whether the young action star would fail. Some believed casting him was a publicity stunt. Others assumed that the actor from Bill and Ted and Speed had no place speaking Shakespeare. Reporters traveled to Winnipeg. Critics arrived prepared to measure every pause, every gesture, and every word against actors who had played the role for centuries. Keanu knew it, but he did not answer the doubt with a speech. He rehearsed. That may sound ordinary. It was not. A man who had just become one of Hollywood's most recognizable faces placed himself in a room where he could be corrected. He accepted direction. He repeated scenes. He carried the weight of more than 1,500 lines and returned the next day to do it again. He was not asking the company to admire his fame. He was asking them to help him become better. That is what humility looks like when no one is photographing it. It is not pretending you have no talent. It is understanding that talent does not place you above the work. As opening night approached, the attention outside the theater grew. Fans waited in the cold. Television crews filled the lobby. Tickets became difficult to find. The production was no longer simply a local performance. It had become an international question. Could Keanu Reeves really play Hamlet? The answer depended on whom you asked. Some critics heard limitations in his delivery. Others found his performance uneven. Keanu did not emerge from Winnipeg with universal praise, and the production did not magically silence every person who had doubted him. But something more interesting happened. He stayed. He did not withdraw when the pressure became uncomfortable. He did not use his movie career as a shield. Night after night, he stepped onto the stage and faced the judgment directly. And some of the people who came expecting a failure saw something they had not expected. They saw physical grace, emotional force, and a young man who seemed to understand Hamlet's loneliness. British critic Roger Lewis later placed Keanu among the finest Hamlets he had seen, praising the innocence, fury, and emotional violence he brought to the prince. That review mattered, but Keanu's reaction mattered more. He did not turn it into a victory parade. He did not use one glowing review to humiliate those who had criticized him. He had never come to Winnipeg to prove that everyone else was foolish. He had come because he wanted to do the play. Years later, when people asked about that period, Keanu still spoke like a student of the experience rather than a conqueror. Hamlet had frightened him. The work had tested him. That was part of why he had wanted it. For several weeks, the people of Winnipeg watched one of the world's newest movie stars choose difficulty over comfort. They watched him enter through the same stage door, depend on the same ensemble, and stand beneath the same lights as everyone around him. The contrast was almost impossible to miss. In Hollywood, Keanu was being offered a sequel designed around his success. In Winnipeg, he was serving words written nearly 400 years earlier. In Hollywood, executives were discussing his value. On stage, value had to be earned again every night. And while Keanu was keeping his promise inside that theater, the decision he had refused to make was beginning to follow him. Speed 2 moved forward without him. The studio did not forget. The industry began to interpret his choice not as loyalty, but as disobedience. The same decision that made Steven Shipper call him a man of his word would soon carry a price far larger than the money Keanu had left behind. Because Hollywood could forgive a failed movie, what it struggled to forgive was an actor who had been offered everything and still said no. The punishment did not arrive with a dramatic announcement. There was no public letter telling Keanu Reeves that he had chosen incorrectly. No executive stood outside the theater in Winnipeg and demanded that he return to Hollywood. The door simply closed. Years later, Keanu described the period with a quiet phrase: movie jail. After he declined Speed 2, he did not make another film with Fox until the day the Earth stood still in 2008. It would be easy to tell this part of the story as revenge. The powerful studio became angry. The sequel moved forward without him, and later became one of the most criticized follow-ups of its era. But Keanu never needed that ending. When he finally explained his decision, he did not mock Sandra Bullock, director Jan de Bont, or the people who made the film. He said he had loved playing Jack Traven. He had loved Speed. He had wanted to work with Sandra again. He simply could not believe in the new story. The first movie had trapped its characters on a city bus that would explode if it slowed down. The sequel moved the danger onto an ocean liner. Keanu read the script and felt that something essential was missing. It did not feel right. That answer reveals the other promise inside this story. Keanu had promised the Manitoba Theatre Center that he would play Hamlet, but he had also made a quieter promise to himself. Success would not force him to pretend. He would not say yes only because the number was large. He would not ask a small theater to carry the cost of his ambition. And he would not publicly humiliate the people whose project he had refused. He could disagree without becoming cruel. Hollywood often describes integrity as confidence. It celebrates the person who enters a room, takes control, and demands what he believes he deserves. Keanu's integrity looked different. It looked like arriving at rehearsal prepared to be corrected. It looked like accepting ordinary theater wages after becoming a box office star. It looked like facing critics who had already decided what kind of actor he was. And later it looked like accepting the consequences of saying no without spending years complaining about them. The decision did not end his career. Keanu continued working. He appeared in The Devil's Advocate. Then, in 1999, he stepped into the role of Neo in The Matrix and became the center of another cultural phenomenon. The actor who had supposedly damaged his future by refusing one blockbuster eventually helped create something far larger. But even that is not the real reward. Imagine that The Matrix had never arrived. Imagine that Keanu's career had grown quieter after Winnipeg. Would keeping his word have become a mistake? Only if we believe principles are valuable because they guarantee victory. Keanu's choice suggests the opposite. A principle matters because there are moments when keeping it may cost you something. The people at the Manitoba Theatre Center could not offer him the protection of a major studio. They could not promise global fame. They could offer only a stage, a difficult role, and the expectation that his word meant something. He decided that was enough. Steven Shipper later remembered him not merely as the movie star who came to Winnipeg, but as a man who honored his commitment. For a theater company, that loyalty protected months of work. For the actors around him, it meant their production would not be abandoned when a more profitable invitation appeared. And for the audience, it created an image that has survived longer than the contract Keanu refused. a young man standing alone beneath stage lights. Outside, studios were measuring his value in millions. Inside, he was trying to remember the next line. That image explains why admiration for Keanu Reeves has endured. It is not only that he has been generous, it is that, at important moments, he has treated people with less power as though their trust carried real weight. Anyone can respect a promise made to someone more powerful. Character is revealed by the promise you keep when the other person cannot punish you for breaking it. Keanu could have left Winnipeg. The theater would have struggled. The company would have been disappointed. Hollywood would probably have understood. Instead, he stayed. He accepted the cold, the criticism, the exhausting work, and the possibility of failure. He chose the commitment that paid less and demanded more. Not because money was evil, not because success embarrassed him, but because he had said he would be there. So let us ask you this. Would you have walked away from millions of dollars to keep a promise that almost no one in Hollywood expected you to honor? And do you believe humility matters most when a person finally has enough power to abandon it? Tell us what you would have done in the comments below. We would like to hear your thoughts. Stay with us. Help us keep his light alive.